Well, let's go to our Abuja studio where we have the Honorable Minister of State for Health, Senator Dr. Olorunbe Mamora. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. I know this is a very difficult time and such a time that you are busy monitoring the situation as we have a health emergency on our hands. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Give us a sense of what has happened. From yesterday, things have gone really bad. From about 20 in the figure of the cases that we have in Nigeria, it has jumped to 30. Give us an update of what we have so far, Minister.
Well, Seun, thank you very much for inviting me. And you did say in your earlier remarks that these are extraordinary times. No doubt you are on point. And what that means is that we also require extraordinary measures. And to that effect, the approach should be whole society approach. That is, everyone should get involved. And everyone has a primary responsibility for his or her health. And that is why the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has come up with a hashtag which is take responsibility. So everyone has a role to play. And there is a price, you have some price to pay, not just a price. The price of the materials, resources, human and material resources. Yes, it's good to pay this price, but one price that I don't want us to pay as a country is the price of complacency. So that is why it has to be a whole society approach. No one should be complacent about the situation at hand. Everybody must get involved and keep to the directives, the advisories, the advice being given to the populace. And if need be, there has to be what I call enforced compliance. People, if need be, have to be forced to comply. And I want to really commend the government of Lagos, particularly the governor and his team, for what they have done so far. And same goes for other states where we have been able to establish cases. The governors of those states are also doing their own bit. But because the burden, as it were now, is in Lagos, and Lagos being the major gateway, particularly of international flights. But so far, so good in Lagos, but we cannot and must not pay the price of complacency.
All right, Honorable Minister, let me, if I may butt in quickly, the fear of a lot of people, especially when you asked that anyone traveling into the country, especially from countries that have over 1,000 cases of coronavirus, should self-isolate. It does look like a lot of people think that the government need to enforce that without allowing citizens to take their own discretion in that matter. Are you thinking of enforcing that? Because in some other climes, that is what the government there are doing.
Well, you have to look at the realities of our own situation. It's not a question of one size fits all. Now, if we don't have the facility for that, isolation of a large number of people, then the best we can do in the circumstance is to ask for self-isolation. And of course, it's a supervised one where those in self-isolation, they are monitored. And the officials of the Ministry of Health or the officials of NCDs, they are in touch with them to monitor their health situation. And they also have a responsibility to report and call on the advertised numbers when they start showing some symptoms. So those are the
But
steps
Minister,
that when I
Minister,
talk of
apologies
enforced
to butt in
compliance,
again, is the fact that how effective is that? Because when you ask people to report themselves, and some people are not doing that, and a lot of people have attributed the rise in case of the cases that we have on our hands to the fact that people have refused to report themselves, and we're having this spread into the larger population. Are you thinking of reviewing that order in the case of anybody who enters in the country subsequently?
Oh, well, you know, we monitor the flight manifest. And where we have information that someone is manifesting symptoms and not showing, of course, we go after them. And if need be, we publish the names of such people so that we can do what we need to do. And of course, it's important to say that it is not just self-isolation, it's a supervised one. Don't forget that when people come into the country now, they have self-reporting forms where they fill in their data, they fill in their address, they fill their telephone numbers, which we confirm even before they exit the airport, when they're coming in on international flights. It's in their own interest, it's in the interest of their families, it's in the interest of the larger society, as in the interest of the entire country. So we have a way of following them, and where they have not been compliant, this is where we now have to put in place this enforced compliance. And particularly in the area, because what we need to do is to break the transmission. The transmission tends to take place where large number of people gather, which we are trying to prevent. That is why we are now talking about social distancing. We don't want people to aggregate or to be in a gathering of more than 50. And even when they are there, they have to give distance to themselves.
All right, Honorable Minister, apologies. We need to take a break now. But when we come back, of course, we'll take you up on a few other issues that Nigerians need to know, especially in keeping safe and in reassuring them that the government got it. We'll take a break, and when we come back, more on what needs to be done to keep safe and stay alive. It's perhaps no time to fear. Has become a very health emergency and taking the world by surprise at some point, and now governments are taking action. But some of the updates that we have for you in Nigeria, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 3 new cases of COVID-19 in Lagos, putting the total figure of cases confirmed in Nigeria at 30. The latest figure was announced on the NCDC Twitter handle with a breakdown showing that 30 of the cases have been confirmed, 28 active, and 2 already discharged. The NCDC says 2 of the cases are returning travelers and 1 is a contact of a confirmed case. So far, 2 have been discharged with no record of death. Been speaking with the governor of Ekiti State and the chairman of the Governors Forum, and as well as the Minister of State for Health, Senator Olorunnimbe Mamora, is in our Abuja studio, and Governor Kaude Fayemi, the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, is in Ado Ekiti. But a lot of Nigerians have been speaking about sharing their thoughts on what they think on this coronavirus and how the world can tackle it. One notable person who has spoken today amidst all of the order of government of stay at home and the restriction of 50 people in a gathering is the pastor of the senior pastor and the general overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor E.A. Adeboye. He spoke earlier at the church service, which we understand that was strictly comply to the government directive. This is what Pastor Adeboye said earlier today.
At the beginning of the year, when I was giving you the prophecies concerning the new year, I did tell you that God said that this year the world will behave like a child in convulsion. I'm sure you remember I told you that. I announced that because I assume that that means there'll be earthquakes, there'll be volcanoes, there'll be floods, there'll be fire, there'll be tornadoes, and So when he says the whole world is going to be on holidays, compulsory holiday, I thought maybe something like that is going to happen. Like it happened during 9/11. Now, if that is what he meant, and somebody had prophesied it, when it occurs, the Interpol will come and get the fellow and say, you heard about the plot. You knew when they were planning this thing, and you didn't speak. So I kept my mouth shut. But now, the compulsory holiday is here.
General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, videos there from that church earlier today. The video source there from the Redeemed Christian Church of God. You heard Professor Enoch Adeboye about what he thinks of the coronavirus disease. Let's get back into the conversation with the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Mamora. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight. Let's get a sense of what is on our hands. How much of the improvement on the facilities on the ground that we have presently, what can you tell us about the state of the facilities? Should we have, God forbid, an increased case on our hands?
Yes, Shehu, essentially, what we are doing at the center in collaboration with the states is to strengthen the facilities on ground and expand those facilities. Don't forget that COVID-19, the behavior that has been established is that usually about 80% of those infected will just manifest, well, some may even be asymptomatic. That is, they are not even showing any symptoms. But where they do show symptoms, the symptoms may just be mild. Then you have some, maybe about another 15% that will show moderate symptoms. And it's just about 5% that will show very severe symptoms that will require critical care. Critical care as in having to be put on ventilators and special care and all that. So those are the capacities that we are strengthening in the centers, particularly in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, in Kano. Of course, in addition to other centers and expanding the bed space available to take charge of these people, particularly those who may require intensive care.
So, Honorable Minister, how many, in essence, how many centers do we have around the country, and how many beds do we have to cater for any emergency should it arise?
Well, I know that in Lagos, we already have over 200, and this is still being expanded. In Abuja, we have over 100, and of course, still being expanded. And then we have in Port Harcourt, the thing is that even at Luth, we are looking at what space can be provided, what bed space can be provided in Luth. And the same goes for our teaching hospitals and federal medical centers. And of course, we are not leaving out the states. The states are also doing theirs. And we are building up this capacity, and not just in terms of the bed space, the capacity in terms of personnel. Because if you want to give critical care, it's not just ordinary health givers, that is, routine. Sorry to use the word ordinary. But the routine is not just the routine health givers that you want to deploy, but those that have had the proper training to be there. Now, we are also talking about contact tracing. with the number of cases that have been confirmed right now, it means that we must intensify our capacity to trace the contacts of all these people and get them checked and tested and followed up appropriately. Because if we don't pick up these people, then they are potential sources of further spreading the thing within the community. So these are the things we are trying to do, and that's why
Minister,
this limiting.
All right. Minister, another issue that's been raised globally when the conversation of coronavirus rises is the fact that the more test facility or capacity that you have, the tendency of you realizing more cases. In South Africa, they have a little higher number of test facilities than we do, and they have higher cases. What is the test capacity that we have? We understand that in some other, there has been a development where the test span has been reduced to about 10 minutes. We understand that that is being developed. Do we have any of such technology in Nigeria?
Well, what we know for now is that the rapid test kit is not really been sanctioned, as it were. It's not really been approved even by the WHO. So we are using the routine ones that we know of that are time tested. And these are present in the 5 laboratories that we have. We have 2 in Lagos, we have 1 in Edo, the Irua, we have in Abuja, and then we have in Ede. So these are and of course, part of the capacity that we are expanding has to do with establishing additional centers well spread throughout the geopolitical zones of the country, so that we can rapidly, because it's important for us to be able to test people rapidly. Because until and unless we test people, we cannot determine who is positive and who is negative. So we are increasing that capacity, not just in terms of the machine, but also in terms of getting the reagents to use. Don't forget that the entire world is scrambling for these test reagents right now.
So I mean, what is the span of time to wait for the test in Nigeria? How long does it take for a test to be concluded and determined?
Well, at the moment it takes between 5 to 6 hours to really come up with a test result.
So in Nigeria at the moment, from what we are seeing on the ground in terms of the bed spaces, in terms of the capacity of our health officials and health institutions in handling this case, the other side to it is the economic impact of some of the order that has been made and the cushioning effect that may have. Is the government thinking about perhaps the poorest of the poor in our society on how this may affect their lives?
Well, definitely. The primary purpose of government is security and welfare. And of course, welfare, and particularly of the vulnerable groups within the society. I can assure you that government is looking at this and with the hope of cushioning the effect of the measures which are being put in place. You did say that these are extraordinary times and apparently also will require extraordinary measures. But I can assure you that government is also considering how to cushion the effect of whatever measures put in place.
How does the Ministry of Health and the federal government, how do you rate the state of things, the situation as regarding coronavirus? In other climes, it's been rated as much as, in terms of the national security, as much as level 4. In Nigeria, how do you rate it in terms of health emergency?
Well, our emergency operation centers, they have been activated to the highest level. That is, we are not leaving anything to chances. We are doing what we need to do both at the national and the state level, and there is this very, very deep collaboration with the state governments.
So, in essence, as we have presently on our hands, if you look at the development, even in some African countries, God forbid the situation in Italy, in Germany, in Spain, in the UK, and in the US happen here. God forbid, we never pray for such a thing. But if we have any larger situation on our hands, what is the worst case scenario that your ministry has prepared for?
Well, don't forget that Mr. President already put in place a presidential task force on COVID-19. And that is the highest authority, so to speak, that Mr. President has put in place, and is in appreciation of what we have at hand. Of course, the Ministry of Health is also involved, and it's a multi-sectorial task force. And all the ministries that are relevant, aviation, transportation, information, name it, they are involved. So the Mr. President, in his wisdom, has put in place this task force, and it's operating at the highest level, and all the necessary resources are being put in place and deployed as necessary to ensure that we don't get into that kind of terrible situation.
Another major issue now is the fear of a lot of people who think that in the rural communities of Nigeria, in the interiors of our interior, is the fact that a lot of people are not even aware that there is such a thing as coronavirus. In some of the Vox Populi that we conducted, is the fact one person said, "What is corona?" And wondering what exactly that is. What is the level of education, public awareness that the ministry is giving, aside the fact that you have hands-on treating and taking care of testing people?
Well, Sheon, you will recall that at the beginning of this program, I did say that this is a whole society approach. So it's not just the Ministry of Health. Everybody is involved. And that's why the NCDC hashtag is take responsibility. It's everybody. And in so doing, of course, we also we want to commend your colleagues in the media, in the press, and everybody. We need to come together. This is a war that we must fight to win. And in so doing, we are disseminating information through all of course, the National Orientation Agency is involved, all the organs, in the Ministry of Information. All the agencies, they are also involved in all this, in disseminating the information, the right information appropriately to the people in various languages. You have jingles, you have television program, you have radio jingles and all this, so that we are reaching out to everyone and getting everyone involved and getting them to do the right thing, particularly in the area of hand washing and the use of sanitizer, alcohol-based. Of course, the need for them to observe what we call personal hygiene by way of all this I've mentioned, and of course, respiratory hygiene. When they cough, when they sneeze, they need to cover up. They need to keep social distance and avoid gathering of a large number of people. Of course, the need for them again to ensure that those who traveled out and came back, they ought to, we have asked them to ensure that they self-isolate and they call the necessary numbers that have been advertised, especially when they are beginning to show some symptoms that may be suspicious. Of course, so these are things that we also, and of course, getting the information from the right sources, that is the established sources, like the television or the numbers advertised and the websites and what have you. So these are the things, and of course, we have the measures that have been put in place, even not just for international flights, but even for local flights now. We are saying that the necessary things must be done. That is checking the temperature of those boarding, before boarding, The temperature must be checked, and of course, the hand sanitizers, alcohol-based, must be applied to everyone boarding, even on local flights right now.
Okay,
These are some of
so
the
before we go
measures
on our
and
next
which we
break, Minister, I'd like to ask you this question, and that's to do with flying. International flights have been restricted from Monday. In fact, we understand that one of the largest airlines in the world, Emirates, is shutting down at some point. But the fear that our borders are porous, flying into the country might be difficult. But what about those porous borders? Benin Republic as a case, Ghana as a case, and Ghana, we understand now, has shut all its borders into going in and out of the country. Is Nigeria thinking of totally shutting down its borders?
Oh, definitely. Definitely, that is on the card because we need to guide against people taking advantage of these borders to come into our country and import this COVID-19. Of course, the surveillance at the borders that have been stepped up because you have our officials of the port health services at the land borders as well and at the sea borders, so as to monitor people coming in and, of course, do the needful in terms of screening them.
Yeah, so we'll go on a break now. But, Minister, before we go on that break, do you wish that Nigeria had shut its air border earlier enough?
Well, I think we have acted in an appropriate manner as dictated by the circumstance at the moment. So it's in order to have done what we did as at the time we did it.
Okay, then we'll take another break, and when we return, more on the coronavirus matter is very much on our hands now, and what we need to do as a people to keep safe. When we come back, maybe you have been making calls to the NCDC hotline, and the kind of response you're getting will get the minister to react to some of the fears that you have right here on the program, the coronavirus war, and how we can win that battle. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's remind you that the cases of the coronavirus in Nigeria has jumped to 30. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 3 new cases of COVID-19 in Lagos, putting the total figure of cases confirmed in Nigeria at 30. The latest figure was announced on the NCDC Twitter handle with a breakdown showing that 30 of the cases have been confirmed, 28 active and 2 already discharged. The NCDC says 2 of the cases are returning travelers and 1 is a contact of a confirmed case. So far, 2 have been discharged with no record of death. For in terms of compliance to some of the orders that are being given, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Adamu, is calling on citizens to voluntarily adhere to the directives on the spread of COVID-19 as it directs all zonal assistant inspectors general of police and commissioners of police nationwide to ensure that all legitimate orders are strictly enforced within their areas of jurisdiction. We've been speaking through the Minister of State for Health, Senator Olorunimbe Mamora, from our Abuja studio. Also, we lost connection at some point with the chairman of the Governors Forum, Mr. Dr. Kayode Fayemi, who is also the governor of Ekiti State. He joins us via telephone now. Thank you so much, Governor Fayemi, for staying with us. Technology has a mind of its own sometimes. Give us a sense of the fear of some Nigerians. A lot of experts, economists have said there might be difficulties in paying salaries. Should they have that kind of situation on our hands, where do workers turn to? Yet again, technology. We'll reconnect with the governor of Ekiti State and the chairman of Governors Forum, Kade Fayemi. Let's go back to our Abuja studio. A few questions to the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunniyi Mamora. Thank you so much, Senator, for staying with us. Let me quickly ask you a few questions being thrown at us here on the program. One of it is that, are you considering enlisting private hospitals in the country to assist the public health facilities, as we know now that they are overwhelmed?
Well, part of the terms of reference given to us by Mr. President on the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is engagement. Engagement with all segments of society. And of course, the private doctors are not excluded. So we are also engaging with them with a view to enlisting their own expertise as well, and look at where they can assist. Because I just told you earlier on that this is a whole society approach.
One question one of our viewers is asking is that who bears the cost of the testing? And if it's the citizen, how much is a COVID-19 test?
It is free. It's free of charge.
All right. So perhaps the final question, and a quick one too, is the fact that have our local health companies started producing some of what we need in the country, considering the fact that every nation of the world is scrambling for some of these facilities too?
Yes, I want to commend some of our local companies. For example, one of the agencies under the Ministry of Health, that's Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Development. They have come up with hand sanitizer that is alcohol-based, which I also know that one of our federal medical centers has also come up with, and of course we have private organizations and pharmaceutical companies that have come up with hand sanitizers that we do not need to import, that we have encouraged them to make these things available in the market. So whatever we can lay our hands on by way of local production, that will be highly welcome in terms of consumables, in terms of other needed materials, even face masks or other protective wears. If we can have them from local environment, we will be glad to patronize them.
Honorable Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunniyi Mamora, thank you this evening for coming on the show, and thank you also for your thoughts. And as we join hands across the world as a people, without any inference of race or color, we need to fight the war against coronavirus. And before we go, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 3 new cases of COVID-19 in Lagos, putting the total figure of cases confirmed in Nigeria at 30. That's how we wrap up the program tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sean Kimbaloye. Bye-bye.